Well, hello. Um, I wasn't going to do this kind of video. I wasn't going to do a video today because I'm presently, uh, in terms of this kind of work, um, preparing a detailed look at Alistair MacIntyre's body of work because I've been rereading his books. And I think they're very insightful for us today. So I'll get into that again later. One thing I wanted to say is that already on the news channels, mainstream media, you see Vice President Vance and other people in the US government talking triumphantly about a deal with Iran. So they go in and break the world by attacking Iran for no good reason. Remember, weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, right? They break it and then they act like they're heroes for having a deal with a country that they didn't need to attack in the first place. Besides, you know what they're funding in the Middle East, and you know why. Uncle Sam Inc. is a greedy bugger. But anyway, it just makes me sick. You know, these people are going to be heroes now. USA, USA. And they're going to have a UFC event on the White House lawn. So people are more concerned about that than anything else. Anyway, so I woke up this morning. I was reading some things as I do and getting ready to go out and do my outdoor work. And suddenly, just from the infosphere, all of these things that I've been thinking about just came across my feeds, my Substacks, my YouTube, and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, holy cow, this is really great stuff. And I'm so interested in it. And there, some of these video essayists or Substack independent journalists or scholars, bloggers are really, really onto something. And they've chosen something to focus on, not like me, my curatory project, where I'm looking at everything all at once. And it's all kind of maddening, but I can't help it. That's just the way I am. They're really focused in on something and they're working it through, their ideas. And they're extremely deep and relevant. So one of these people that I follow on Substack, her name is, I've mentioned her before, Nell Bonilla. I don't know if she says Bonilla or Bonilla, like Spanish, double L. She's in Germany. She's very insightful, and she wrote a piece recently called Multipolarity in a Multi-Layered Cage. Why the shift from unipolarity did not break the imperial structure and what still blocks the path to a more peaceful order. I always mention multipolarity and hegemony and all that in my work. And so I think this is an extremely interesting article to add depth to that. So basically, she's saying, what changed? Why things stay the same, right? So she's talking about things that I say all the time. What kind of future do we want, and what do we have to do with it? So she says, I am saying we are in for an unpleasant surprise. Am I saying we're in for an unpleasant surprise? That the empire is invincible? No and no. What I am saying is the more things change, the more they stay the same. So, and then the first heading is a world of hostages. And next heading is structural dependency and mutually assured denial. It's so right up my alley. Sometimes I read these things and I'm going, I've just been thinking about that for a half a year, you know? And then somebody comes along and writes something that just makes total sense to me. And another thing that came up is Paul Beckwith, who I follow, who's a climate expert. And he has a YouTube channel, Paul Beckwith. And his channel's really great. He always includes reference links to what he's talking about so you can read the primary sources that he's commenting on, which I appreciate because I always advocate that we read the primary sources ourselves and think about it ourselves, not just what commentators say about these articles and scientific articles and whatever. So it's really good. It's very interesting. So I'll just read what he put in the description. So the title is Smoking Gun for Mass Extinctions Like PETM 56 million years ago. North Atlantic pulsing mantle plumes. So that's very interesting. Does anyone remember those lava lamps from the 1960s and 70s? The underlying fluid mechanics phenomenon in these lava lamps is a form of Rayleigh or Rayleigh-Taylor instability. So I don't know who they are, but anyway, I've never read anything by them. Anyway, it's complex physics stuff, I guess. Well, it turns out that mantle plumes can act like lava lamps and send up a bubble or pulse of lava which can penetrate the Earth's crust where it is very thin and release huge amounts of CO2 and methane to the atmosphere and cause mass extinctions. So this has happened before. We know it's happened before. We have multiple lines of evidence of it happening. There is no doubt about it, okay? And if you want to know about that, it's not hard to find places where you can learn about that. Geological timeline, deep time, the history of the Earth and living systems. So he says, it is thought now that such a bubble from a mantle plume caused the mass extinction 56 million years ago by raising the global temperature from 5 to 8 degrees Celsius in a short period of time. So we're always thinking about the dose makes the poison. How hot does it have to get before habitats and ecosystems start to break down? And time, how much do I take of this dose a day to get enough vitamin D or whatever it is? Yeah, so it's the rate of change that matters as well, right? If you have some cancer in your body somewhere and it takes a long, long time for it to become metastatic and just to start to grow really, really fast and spread all over your body. You may have had it for a decade or more, and then suddenly, boom, 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 it changes real fast. And then you get sick, and then you die. So the rate of change in terms of temperature, global average temperature, matters a lot to us. What are we going to spend our money on? Collaborating across nation states to mitigate the worst potential consequences of our past 200-300 years? No, we're going to go to war, which will lead me to the next thing I'm going to curate. But anyhow, so I'll finish this one off. So 5 to 8 degrees Celsius in a short period of time, this extinction is known as the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum. So that's where we get PETM, extinction. This new research goes a long way to answering many questions about the location and mechanisms responsible. And this is a very important thing because PETM is one of the best analogs in deep time for what is happening today. So Most of us are very short-sighted people. We just get through the day. And we're not that interested in deep time or deep history or counterfactuals or, you know, things like that. It just doesn't register for us. And we have to start paying attention to it. If enough people in the world are going to be properly motivated to do something. So this new research goes a long way to answering many questions about the location and mechanisms responsible. And this is very important since the PETM is one of the best analogs in deep time for what is happening today. However, today, human GHG emissions, greenhouse gases, are the mantle plume bubble or the lava lamp bubble. So it's us, folks. We're the baddies. And if you want to extrapolate, Uncle Sam Inc. is the absolute mob boss of this global thing of ours. So American people, North American people, US citizens, you gotta do something. Because if you don't, it's going to be very unpleasant. You know, like our friend says, we're in for some bad experiences in her multipolarity piece. So I would recommend, I'll put a link, but I would recommend you like and subscribe to Paul Beckwith and learn a little bit about what we know as we go along about global heating and climate change. It's all interconnected. So ecocide is a part of it. Overshoot is a part of it. Limits to growth is a part of it. And we just don't have time to listen to these goofballs in Washington and waste our materials and energy on war, unnecessary war, when we could easily talk things through. The first thing you have to do is be mindful of other people's sense of security and safety, right? And if you care about what they care about, you can always make a deal, come to some kind of understanding. You know, when you're talking game theoretically and you're having these geopolitical great games, a lot of disinformation comes out because you don't want your opponent to know what's really going on. I think Xi and Putin are more transparent than people give them credit for. And I think Uncle Sam Inc. is more of a con man and a trickster and a dark propagandist than any other country in the world. And we have to get a handle on that because we're being lied to all the time. And it's just not good for us. And more information ain't mo better. You know, we used to say more money, more better, right? But more information doesn't necessarily cut it. Knowing what's what isn't enough. So that's what this ongoing series is going to be focused on. At some point, we got to do something. So we all do something every day, right? So what are we going to do? And this leads me to the next video that I want to share. It's very interesting to me because I like making film. So movie monologues that radicalized my moral philosophy. And this is from a channel I love called Like Stories of Old, LSOO. And so in his video description, he says, to act in this world is to put yourself in moral peril. To shake the foundations of your own philosophy, sometimes overwhelmingly so. In such times, when you're no longer sure which way is right, where do you go? Who do you become? So ontological issues, but he's talking about deontological ethics in this story. And it's extremely insightful. It's only 23 minutes long, and I recommend you look at it. It has almost 400,000 views. And this came out in September 16, 2025. It's great. It's a great video essay. And it's right up my alley because I'm rereading McIntyre, so I keep wondering where we ground our ethics and moral beliefs in. What is the context? What do we adhere to? What can we agree on? Are there any principles and values across cultures and nation states that we can agree on? Universalities may be an illusion, a construct, like the universal rights, human rights thing, or whatever. But if we're going to build anything like that institutionally, we have to have some sense of reality. What is real? How things really work, and we have to come together and say, okay, we understand this at this moment, these things, and we have to work together within this mutual understanding to do something to make things better, or we risk, honestly, extinction. We're already in a mass extinction event. Some people call it the sixth extinction. But folks, we're human animals, and we depend on great nature to survive and to continue. you know, Fortunately, over the last 300,000 years, we survived, and therefore we're watching YouTube. But we could easily go extinct. Now, it might not matter. Like I said in my last video, you're busy. You have a yacht to buy or something, and you've got to get attention on TikTok or whatever it is you're occupied with. You're farming. You're surviving in the Congo, whatever it is. But we're going to have to get busy, and we're going to have to figure out how to work together, or we are really, really screwed. And the tragedy is that on our way to metastatic cancer, to the moment where you're in the hospital with painkillers, and eventually you're in a hospice being dehydrating to death, there's a great deal of pain. And you might not feel it in California or Seattle or New York City, but people around the world are already suffering. I've been to Cuba twice, and Uncle Sam Inc. hasn't been kind to Cuban people. They wanted to live differently under a different system, and we don't like that, so we punish them for generations. And now we want to go in and kidnap an octogenarian for some alleged crimes in 1993 or whatever. What a waste of time. Now they're talking about invading Cuba. Well, they're poor. They can't defend themselves. They're brown. So yeah, that'll be an easy victory for Donald Trump. And mind you, when you start blaming Donald Trump for everything, remember that it's the culture in the United States that produced Donald Trump. He was a master of the attention economy. That's how he got really, really rich. And that's how he's getting richer and richer as the president of the United States, with all of his insane grifts that we just bend over and take. It's madness. So who's responsible for that? I want every one of us to take just a smidgen of responsibility for how this happened. It's important. We need to be able to be self-critical and analyze ourselves. And if we can't do that, we have to listen to friends of ours that can help us with that, because it's important. So that's a fantastic video essay, right up my alley. I've been writing and talking about these things, and there it was from 2025, lifetimes ago. So anyway, the other one is, this guy's got 52.9 thousand subscribers. Woo! 47K views 5 days ago. These guys know how to promote their YouTube channels. Maybe I'll have 2 views, no likes, no comments, because look at me. Why would I get any encouragement? Don't encourage that guy. So anyway, this one's called The Genius Everyone Missed, the Greatest Multidisciplinary Artist of Our Time. Cool. But it just turns out after I watched this thing that it's absolutely true. I'm not going to spoiler alert any of this video. I think you need to watch it. But I like this segment because he's talking about his mom gifted him for graduation a trip to Africa, and he visited several countries there. Now, travel is always very good for you, and I've been very privileged and lucky that I got to travel. And I've mentioned this before, but the reason is my parents had a travel business. Back in the day of familiarization trips, when I was a child, I got to go to a bunch of places, and it put the hook in me. And I, having lived in 7 countries until now, it really, really did put the hook in me. I never stopped traveling. So this appreciation for culture that I have is deeply rooted. But anyway, this really inspired this person. I'm not going to tell you who he is. I want you to watch the video. But it inspired him to write poetry, and he's an amazing actor, and blah, blah, blah. So The Genius Everyone Missed, and his channel's called That Dope SHFT. That Dope Shift. I don't know. I haven't really looked into it. I don't follow this YouTuber. This is the first video I've seen of him, but I think I'm going to look at some more of his work. The other person I follow at the New Atlas, Brian, he's talking about Ukraine update. So U.S. prepares to feed Europe next into the proxy war on Russia. This is the thing we do. Uncle Sam Inc. is prepping Filipinos and South Koreans and Japanese people to be drone fodder for their war on China. Complete waste, really stupid, because as I said before, China has 400 million engineers. We might want to collaborate with those people, that brain trust. But no, they're celestials. I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I'm making a point because we are racists, even if we don't think we are. So somehow the Chinese can't do anything right because they're Chinese. They're our enemy. They weren't our enemy when we were taking advantage of labor arbitrage and building all our stuff in China because it was cheaper, faster, more efficient, and sending it back to big box stores in the United States so people could go consume too much in their gigantic SUVs and pickup trucks. So, but now, because they're competitive, which means we lose market share and, we don't want to play anymore. It's just like when Yeltsin was finally gone and the oligarchs and Uncle Sam Inc. was more or less booted out of Russia. That's when you just start hating on Russia again. And Russia's got to go. They're not playing ball with our plutocrats and oligarchs and global corporations and global institutions like the IMF and whatever. So we have to kill them all. They all have to go. This is it, There is nothing like the wrath of spurned Uncle Sam Inc. He will kill everything if he has to. And we'll sit back and do nothing. We will take MDMA and go on a rave trip in the Grand Canyon or something. We'll go to Burning Man, and we'll be so cool and hip because we're there. So that's another thing. We have this delusion that America's got oil and gas and coal. So what, we're going to spend all of America's oil and gas and coal on these wars? And we have to support Europe now because they can't buy gas from Russia. So we're going to have to send gas to them. What about gas to all the poor people in the United States of America? What about the crumbling infrastructure and everything else? I mean, everything's been captured, including higher education, journalism. You know, I don't know. There's something almost 300 journalists have been murdered in Gaza since that war started getting hotter and hotter, and that number is greater than all the other wars in the 20th and 21st century put together. So it's grotesque. It's grotesque, and the demands are insane. And what you have are these millenarian uh, Christian Zionists, people who believe in crazy stories, and they just won't listen to anything else, and they don't care about science or data or lines of evidence. They don't care about the hundreds of thousands of science papers uh, collaboratively written across cultures, across nation states. You know, so much of like virology and climate science and all these things, just pick a domain, are written in collaboration with scientists around the world. So it's not like it's ideologically driven, but our fear of it is ideologically driven. Our fear of the truth, our fear of reality is ideologically driven. And we get stuck in these dogmatic belief systems, and we're unable after that to think clearly. And we become stubborn. Oh, you disagree with me? Wow, I really hate you. You know, you attacked my identity. You attacked my tribe. I don't like that. And so, you know, you lose friends. It's all over. So it's bye bye bye. Three strikes, you're out. The next one is a really cool review of a book, and I just bought the book because I want to read it. It's so interesting. I went through a period of really delving into the alt-right and neo-reactionaries. I met some interesting people. I won't name drop. When I was in Shanghai and Hong Kong, and also here, I've talked about them many times before in videos and my writing. But anyway, neo-reactionaries and accelerationists of various flavors. And I started looking at them in 2008 because the betrayal, Obama's betrayal, really bugged me. It broke me. I couldn't, I started to lose my faith in the mainstream culture at that moment. And it took me about 5 years to really wash my hands of it. By 2016 and afterwards, after all that Russiagate stuff and whatever, I just started to realize that it's all been bullshit. And I, you know, for a long time I was saying, looking at anybody who was telling a different story, had a different narrative to express. Some of them were quite serious and interesting, and that's why I always bring up capitalist realism and stuff like that. But some were less so, and all of them got captured, audience captured. They all got attentionitis, you know, fame freak, whatever you want to call it. You know, I'm so popular now. I've got to, you know, monetize this right away because, you know, who knows when I'm not going to be popular anymore. And it makes sense. I understand that. If I were a serious YouTuber and I was trying to promote myself and have 56,000 subscribers, I'm scared. If that happened to me, what the hell would happen to me, right? So anyway, this review is in Skeptic Magazine. I'm a subscriber to that and have been for many, many, many years. So I went on down all these rabbit holes, you know, the heterodox, this and that, and the alt-right and the alt-left and the new left and the blah, blah, blah. and rereading all kinds of Marxist literature and postmodernism, and trying to figure out what it is, what it is, what the kerfluffle is all about. Every time one of these alt media people would say something, I go, well, okay, you're talking about this. Why don't I read Derrida and Flaubert and whatever and figure it out for myself? I mean, and put it in context. What were they talking about in 1963 or 75 or whatever year it was? What was going on then? Put it in the context so I'd understand what they were really saying and not just some spin on it for political or ideological effect, right? You have to go to the primary sources and figure it out for yourself always. But I'll just read the first part of this. I recommend reading this article. I haven't read the book yet. Before the social media platforms, Twitter and Facebook took the extraordinary step of banning a sitting U.S. president before recommendation engines decided who deserved an audience, before the internet hardened into a set of gated timelines where each tribe watches its own curated reality. There was a brief, chaotic era of online media that felt radically open. And I remember that. And it was kind of fun. It was confusing as hell, but it was like, oh, that's interesting. That's different. I've never thought about that. And again, the way I do things is I say, oh, they mentioned this person or this philosopher or that philosopher. If somebody's got some, 200 episode podcast on Nietzsche or something like that, and you're like, well, I've read Nietzsche. What's this guy talking about for 200 episodes? It's not like the History of Rome podcast or the Byzantium podcast or, stuff like that can be very interesting because there's so much material on those histories. So it's quite cool. So on with this again. A loose coalition of independent journalists, pundits, comedians, and provocateurs built a parallel public sphere alongside and often against the mainstream media, MSN. And of course, once we got to the pandemic, everything just exploded, right? It was all primed. We were primed to freak out over a pandemic. A virus is a virus. It's either virulent and dangerous or it's not, right? Oh, it's just a common cold. Anyway, I won't get into that. But people, even now in 2026, are still pissed off about masks and lockdowns. You do what you have to do. You don't always do the right thing when confronted by an emergency. Anyway, it's so politicized now, it's hardly worth talking about anymore. There have been 500,000 good scientific papers published on everything, the virus, the vaccines, on and on. If people wanted to know what the scientific consensus was, they could find out, but they don't. They want to listen to the 5 or 15 heterodox, whatever, scientists or doctors who believe something else. So you go down all those rabbit holes and it's quite fun. So where was I? Mainstream media. The barrier to entry was low, a camera, an opinion, and the stamina to upload relentlessly. Yeah, it's a lot of work. I mean, it can be a fun hobby when you're retired, but it's still a lot of work. So you've heard that thing where people say, I'm more busy now than when I was working, when they get retired. And I'm like that, but not overly so. I'm just enjoying the busyness that I want to have for myself, which is, again, is a luxury, and I am privileged. In return came virality, fame, and a kind of influence that traditional institutions did not yet know what to make of, let alone counter. In that ecosystem, I love it the way we talk about business ecosystems and all that for a long time, right? In that ecosystem, top charts on platforms like YouTube were closer to what they claim to be. Rankings based largely on raw views rather than finely tuned behavioral targeting that operates today. It's so different the way the algorithms work now. And you add AI to that, and everybody has to have AI on their PCs now, on their phones. It was 5G, can we have 8K or 20,000K videos now, kind of thing. And now we have to have AI search engines. They're useful, okay, if you know how to use them, and you have something well digested that you want to use that tool for. Anyway, it's so different now, so different. A creator could rise to popularity because millions of people actively showed interest in their work and clicked, not because an algorithm decided the content fit a retention profile or a desirable political angle. I find when I type in the tags for my YouTube video, a lot of the tags are tagged. So if you type in moral philosophy or something, it's tagged. It's problematic. YouTube has found that content tagged with this can be problematic. So it's going to take their AIs a long time to go through your content to see if it's not dangerous, And there's more censorship and all that kind of stuff. So we're being herded. And that's another thing where I'm talking about Nell Bonilla or Bonilla. I don't know how she says it, but anyway. We're being herded, in directions. We think we're making choices, and again, free will and determinism. Determinism is interesting and we have to understand it, but we also have to understand randomness, stochasticity, chaos theory, complexity theory. Oh my God. What the heck? And, or at least understand that those things exist to kind of start wading into all of these complex angles and perspectives on things. So one of the most visible figures to emerge from that era was Lauren Southern. Do you know who she is? Do you remember her? She's a beauty. A young Canadian YouTuber who rose to prominence in her early 20s. So you can imagine you're a kid. My brain hasn't even fully developed yet because I'm not 25. Whatever. But, still a young person, right? And so I saw this podcast by somebody the other day. He's a kid, early 20s, and he has all these clickbaity guests and titles and thumbnails. He's really successful. He's in a beautiful YouTube studio that I'm sure his dad put together for him. But wow, people pay attention to him and his guests, and I think it's a waste of time. But anyway, that's where they're paying attention. That's what they're paying attention to. So they're spending hours a day or whatever looking at that kind of content. So Southern often reached audiences in the millions, regularly rivaling and eclipsing viewership of legacy giants like CNN or the Canadian Broadcasting System or whatever it's called, CBC. She did it through a blend of commentary videos, on-the-ground segments, and documentaries, content designed to feel more immediate than studio content designed to feel more immediate than studio news and more transgressive than polite opinion columns. So remember when you used to have op-eds in newspapers and you'd follow a couple of people because you kind of liked them? There's millions of them now. So I want to scroll down and there's another paragraph here that's pretty good. She did films like Borderless in 2019, great replacement theory stuff, really the usual out there stuff that everybody got so excited about because nobody trusts anything anymore. Getting back to McIntyre, we're disjointed and unmoored. So people are looking for anything to grasp onto, and we want answers. You just tell me what to believe, and I'll be fine. I just need to know the truth. You've got to tell me what's what, and I'll know what's what, and I'll feel really virtuous because I know what's what. The amazing atheist. There were so many of these kinds of people, and and you know, I used to say commonsensical, but yeah, common sense. It's just basic common sense, don't you know? Some of the headings, you can't escape it, so what do you make of it? And audience capture and stuff like that. I've talked a lot about that. Um, we start to, these intellectual influencers start to shift into these bubbles, echo chambers, because they're getting clicks, they're getting likes, they're getting viewers. And then they have to interview goofballs who really shouldn't have any attention paid to them. But they're popular. They have a lot of people following them. I'm not going to name names and hurt people's feelings. Your favorite professor, or your favorite author. I just remember, just to say one thing. What was that thing called? Something Curve. I forgot his name. Sam Harris interviewed him. Anyway, shouldn't have brought it up. But I want to talk to people that are going to get my viewership up, because I'm so important. I'm such a vital voice. People should listen to, and I've got to get more viewers so I can make my point. There are people I love, who have incredibly good podcasts, but they're not moving the needle, and they never will. And some of them know this. They're very self-conscious about this, and they mention it. But there's no call to action across all of these different groups and platforms, which is what we need. Nodes of communities and organizations who are trying to figure out how to build the kinds of institutions that we're going to have to wrestle with the poly crisis moving forward. And all of these nodes across countries, collaborating with one another and working together to help each other discover local solutions and ways that we can govern, because you need good governance whether you like it or not, globally, a transition that we can't avoid. So as I say, circumstances is the most brutal and effective dictator the world has ever known. And circumstances will dictate what you do, whether you like it or not. Shit's going to happen, and you'll react. Wouldn't you rather have some idea of what's happening now and why it's happening, and what the consequences of this thing of ours is, so that you can prepare yourself for tomorrow and the next day and the next day? Or do you just want to watch it all on TV unfold, or on the tubes? Every day, if you watch ABC News, I watch only the introduction, then I turn it off. But it's just amazing to me that it's chemical factories blowing up, houses blowing up, apartment buildings blowing up, people driving into bridges, aviation mishaps and accidents, shootings, on and on and on. It just never ends, right? And all we want to do is point a finger at the Democrats or the Republicans and say, that's the problem. We just get rid of those people. You can't just get rid of the billionaires. You have to pull the rug out from under them. You have to dismantle the system that created them and replace it with new structures and new institutions. So you had an American Revolution, bully for those founding fathers and all of that stuff. And something came of it, and this is the result. We didn't know what was going on back then. you have to understand who Benjamin Franklin was in his context, what kind of life he had, childhood he had, what he thought of Paris, what his values were, his moral precepts or whatever. And then you know him within his context, and you see how everything kind of evolved over time. And we have our own context, right? And we're here. We inherited the whirlwind. And the Third World War, which is brewing right now, is going to be the ugliest event in human history. And it's going to make World War I and World War II look like a picnic because AI is involved. And we're going to have robotic murdering machines roving around and drones, and people are going to be sitting in these bunkers operating these things with huge satellite blanketed above the earth. And, eventually what could happen, when those satellites start to break up and fall apart. Our system is amazing and brilliant, and there's so many cool stuff that we can have and interact with, but it's fragile. It isn't like healthy soil, a healthy forest. That can go on for hundreds of millions of years. Our system, this thing of ours is fragile, and it's going to break apart and die very quickly. It'll make your head spin, I promise. You think it's so powerful. We've got satellites. We're going to Mars. We got to keep the Chinese off of the moon, though. We're going to build data centers that float out in the ocean with these crypto city states with Peter Thiel as the chairman of the board. And it's going to be incredible. And the robots and the ex machina and all this crazy stuff. But it's all dependent on so many complex layers of stuff going on that one thing could break and it could bring it all down. And plus, data centers do need a lot of water. They need a lot of stuff. They need a lot of energy. And of course, you're going to come up with a solution. All of my baby boomer friends are so excited about all the wonderful green technologies and solutions. And we're going to have fusion energy any day now. Trust me. Just give me another $50 million or $1 billion and another couple of years. And if you believe me, I've got a bridge to sell you. And yeah, of course, Trump has got a deal again. And then they're going to bomb some more while they're making their deal. And this stuff, the wheels have come off the cart, people. And we're just wondering what's going to happen in LA during the World Cup. This is the thing. I wrote about the economics of the World Cup. It's not comprehensive or the deepest blog post you'll ever read, but it gives you an idea of the business ecosystem of these huge global sporting events. And people are like already talking about terrorism and strikes and security. And, why would anyone want to travel now when, the tickets are going to be much more expensive? Hopefully you locked yours in long ago. Maybe the flights are going to be canceled. The Strait of Hormuz is going to be shut down, and all of that production, energy production, isn't going to ramp up overnight. So you think about it, all these crazy football fans going to the United States of America, this demon-haunted vandal that just wants to blow up the planet unless you let Uncle Sam Inc. control everything. You want to go there where there's shootings, mass shootings, and people are driving their cars into businesses and stuff all the time. I live in Europe. There's 400 million people in the EU, and we just don't see those disasters happening all the time. I don't know why. And people here in my village are just a lot more chill and down to earth. And they don't need as much, right? They're not so caught up in status. And and having stuff. But of course, the people, the ambitious Portuguese people are working in Germany or the United States or somewhere because they want to make more money. And why not? Get it while you can. But, we have a labor shortage here. We can't even fix our toilets. There's not enough labor, right? You try to get your roof fixed after the big storm, and there's just nobody to help you. They're so busy. There's 5 people who can help you fix your roof, and they've got 5,000 roofs to fix. They're never going to fix the damage of the data lines and the poles that hold up the data lines in this country. It's going to take forever. There's just not enough labor, and you got to keep the bloody migrant laborers out, and the people from former Portuguese colonies from moving in here. And you have to tell the rich people who came here and thought they were going to get citizenship that no, they don't really want citizenship. They just want to be here, permanent residency. That's what you want. You don't want to be we don't want more people. And we don't want to go to the countryside and pick the grapes or the olives because we don't do that. So we're going to import some people from Nepal, have them do it, and then send them home. But someday, the migration problem is a problem, but someday we're going to wish we had those workers here, And the same thing in the United States. If you want to have your right-wing intentional community somewhere and, a country within a country, but we do obey state laws and so on. But we believe this, white supremacy or something. And we just want to live in a community of white supremacists. That's all. Just leave us alone. Hands off. Let us do what we want to do. You're asking the United States to give you that grace that you won't give to Ukraine, the Maidan coup. You won't give to Bolivia or Venezuela or Cuba or Central America or anywhere else. You're not going to grant them the opportunity to live the way they want to live. But you're a libertarian and you're cool and you're in the United States of America and you want them to give you that because God knows you deserve it. And of course, where are you going to get your training for your self-defense force in Arkansas? Well, you're going to ask a lot of vets to come and live there. We will let you build a house on our land if you are a right-wing, white supremacist ex-Marine who's got some skills. He's got skills. That kind of thing. Okay, does that fall apart? Everything's already disjointed. So what happens when all these intentional communities start to fight for stuff that they need, right? It's just a bunch of fantasists, Neoplatonic fantasists or Pentecostal fantasists or Tescriel fantasists who really just don't want to do the hard work and they don't want to know what they don't want to know. So you can't teach them anything. It's a damn shame. So that's what I'm hoping you'll go and look at. I post these on Blue Sky and Substack, Cospelon, Bulliam T. You can look up those names and have a look at that, see what you think. And of course, don't listen to me. What do I know? Go out there, read the books, explore the primary sources, look at other people talking about these things who are making sense, who seem to know what they're doing. And again, remember that knowing what's what isn't enough. We're going to have to step up. And that's going to mean that some young people are going to have to make some sacrifices. You can do that by joining the U.S. military and invading Iran if you want, or whatever, Cuba. Or you can try to save living systems of which people are a part. Have a nice day. This went on for a while. I'm just going to leave it one video. I'm not going to break it up. So a little bit under an hour. If you did find anything I had to say interesting, do like it and share it. Why not? I don't think I'll ever be audience captured. And I appreciate your time. Take good care. Buliam T. Out.